we have invested in well over 30 companies around crypto. We're one of the most active crypto investors out there. One of the things you and I were talking about backstage is we believe very deeply that all boats can rise. And so we have been a very active investor. We've invested in some companies that are doing stuff well beyond what Ripple's core use case is. We haven't yet talked publicly about some of the other verticals. Well, we did talk about, we announced a $100 million investment in the carbon credit marketplaces. This is an industry that has all kinds of problems with authenticity, like people creating fraudulent carbon credits, trading them. The transparency and the ability to see the origins of carbon credits, I think, lends itself very well to blockchains. And so I think moving carbon credit marketplaces onto blockchains, I think, is likely, and we've committed to invest $100 million to help catalyze that. And the experience has been, the more risk you take, the higher yield you may get, but there's more risk. And it turns out that that might have been the case here, we just didn't understand it. So, look, I think, I also like the word mainstream. DeFi means lots of things to lots of people. The idea of staking and getting, way above market yields, I think we now have seen that maybe there's a reason why way above market yields may not be as sustainable as we thought. But that doesn't mean at all that DeFi goes away. As I said, I chose the word I'm confused intentionally because I feel like there's something happening there that I find interesting. I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to get smarter. But there's also clearly some noise that isn't good for the system. I think at a time when there's been a lot of attention on culture, some of it negative. There's a really aggressive piece by the New York Times about a crypto company. Certainly you've seen some tweet storms from other CEOs. I think culture matters. I think you have to think about it, you have to invest in it, you have to be intentional about it. And I think we do try to enforce a no assholes policy. Look, I mean, it pains me to say this to some degree, but we have hired and subsequently fired some exceptionally talented people because they simply, they couldn't work well with other people. And if you can't work in a community, work in an environment where, look, everyone at Ripple wears the same colored jersey. We might have different numbers on the jersey, but we're all on the same team. And if you think that's not the case, then you're not gonna pass our no asshole policy and we're gonna ask you to leave. 20% of people in the United States own or have exposure to crypto. That feels kind of mainstream to me. Now, I think when we're talking about mainstream, we're also, when people say that, I think, oh, you mean in terms of use cases and utility and actually solving problems, and it's not just speculation. And that, I think, obviously, it's a journey. Now, if you compare the chart of internet adoption to crypto adoption, you actually see it on a very similar curve. So part of my optimism about what's happening despite the current downturn is, look, if you step back and look at the big picture, Webvan went away, Pets.com went away. That doesn't mean that those technologies haven't been profound and changed society in lots of ways. And I think the same is true in crypto and blockchain. We're just seeing that journey, and sometimes the hype gets ahead of the reality. Then you have a reset. We clearly have been seeing that the last few weeks. But I think mainstream is in the eye of the beholder. I also think we have to look at it from, what about Argentina, where you already have crypto entering kind of mainstream payments, consumer payments. Anyway, so I think it kind of depends on how you define mainstream. I think NFTs, the way I think about it, and not surprisingly the way Ripple has kind of approached this, it's about utility. There are NFTs that we can use that are solving a problem, and we can debate the value of art, and again, I'm not the expert at that. But I think the nature of what an NFT is to tokenize an asset and make it more easily managed. I'll give one example. Rights management in Hollywood. Why can't the ownership of content rights be an NFT? You can buy and sell it. You can have smart contracts around it to determine the licensing. All of that now becomes transparent, reconcilable. Today there are hundreds of thousands of people who literally in Hollywood, all they do is fight with each other about rights payments. If you could actually move that to where the right is an NFT, and through smart contracts you're licensing that, to me that's very powerful and making our society and our industry, our economy more efficient. Anytime you have these high friction transactions, I think blockchains can be used to make those more efficient, more seamless. Ripple obviously started there around cross-border payments. We're looking at other verticals. But we kind of maybe think about this as, or enterprise first. And sometimes it's not the consumer sexy stuff, but I think actually like solving customer problems is incredibly exciting, and I think a lot of people have come to Ripple because of that. Ripple has always had the view of like, let's be pragmatic, let's work with regulators. Frankly, I got here late last night because I was at a central banker conference in Europe yesterday, and those meetings with central bankers actually I think are incredibly important for them to understand that there is real utility in using crypto. And the more we can, as an industry, help regulators understand that, the more I think we'll move the whole industry forward.
Yeah.
It's incredibly frustrating to be a citizen of and a company based in a country that is behind almost every other country in providing clarity around crypto. I mean, even here in Canada, Canada has approved a Bitcoin ETF. The US has not. I think there's so many examples where the US has been out of step with other G20 economies. And again, I'm not talking about random, small countries. I'm talking about like major economies who are providing that clarity and certainty. As you described, the Securities Exchange Commission sued Ripple saying that our sales of XRP were investment contracts. It's a kind of a nuanced point, and to your point, we fought it. I think it is so important to fight it, not just for Ripple, but for the whole industry. The SEC, I think, is a hammer, and when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And the current chair of the SEC has said he thinks probably everything except for Bitcoin is a security. That's a pretty bold statement. I think it would be very negative for the US crypto industry, and it's the reason why I think a lot of people are moving outside the United States to build and invest in or speculate in various crypto projects. 95% of our customers are non-US companies. So, look, we're going to continue to invest where we know what the rules are. Even though there are a lot of libertarian roots around crypto, my experience is most actors in crypto want to play by the rules. But we have to know what the rules are. And at the SEC, going back to one of the things you asked earlier, they have been fighting us on the disclosure of certain documents. So this is an entity, by the way, which keep in mind what the SEC does. They demand disclosure from the companies they regulate. And they won't disclose anything. They had a judge 14 months ago, tell them they need to disclose the notes associated with this very famous speech that happened 4 years ago saying that Ether is not a security. What are they hiding?
Yeah.
Like, why, it's been 14 months and they're still fighting to hide those notes. If we want the United States, the largest economy in the world, to be a major player in crypto, we need this clarity and certainty. And so far, I'm very happy with how the court case has gone. Certainly, I wish it would have gone faster, to your point, around 2023. But we are fighting every step to make it go as quickly as possible. 14 months ago, the SEC was ordered to turn over those notes. They then have claimed other, kind of delay. There was a hearing, I think it was last week or the week before, where the judge again listened to the SEC to explain why they shouldn't have to turn those notes over. There should be a ruling imminently, meaning could be today, could be tomorrow, maybe it's next week. You never really know when a judge is going to make a ruling. But this is, again, just on the discovery. But we expect that ruling imminently. And I think it's clear to us that the judge has previously said you have to turn these notes over. We'll see what the judge says this time. It is interesting to me, like the chair of the SEC has said justice delayed is justice denied, yet they are delaying this every single step of the way.
Yeah.